All right, everybody, welcome back. Totally Driven Radio, and it's time to welcome the man of the hour. What are you laughing at, G-O-T, M-Gay?
You know I am. It's my favorite bumper that we have so far. That and El Capo.
You know, it's funny, when I was talking to Dennis O'Hare about her, he's like, how'd you have her on the show? She don't speak English. I'm like, a translator. He's like, how'd you interview a translator on the radio?
It was tough.
And she still did the bumper better than half the English people.
How about that, right?
Right. Total Driven Radio.
All right, well, let's welcome the man of the hour himself. This man, not only does he love his rock and roll, but he loves Nutella and coffee just as much. Let's welcome the one and only Acey Slade. What's up, Acey?
Yo. What's up, guys?
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm just drinking coffee.
Yeah, it was funny, like a couple of years ago, like that's all I saw you post on social media was either Starbucks or Nutella.
Yeah, pretty much. That's
pretty much.
That's the fuel. That's the fuel for the creative juices, I guess.
Hey, you know, it's kind of funny. The other day you were actually doing, was it a video or like a movie or something with Rachel Loren?
Yeah. It's a Bollywood movie called The Prince of Bollywood, and Rachel's an artist that I'm working with right now, and she's super rad, and there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff coming out from her, I'd say probably early next year, maybe even sooner.
Nice. Yeah. She's an amazing talent.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, she can just sing for miles, you know.
It's crazy, yeah. Her voice is amazing.
And she's a great person. She's super cool.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, how does, I got to ask, how does a guy come out of Downingtown and end up doing all this stuff you've done in the rock and roll world?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm really, 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 really lucky, you know. I mean, I don't know. I feel weird saying lucky because I've sacrificed a lot. It's not like I won the lottery ticket, you know.
Right.
But, I mean, I busted my ass. Nothing got handed to me. But, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. When I go home and I'm like, you know, I'm very lucky to be where I am. But, you know, there's kids I'll never forget, I was taking a train across Japan one time, and I'm not saying that to brag, but I was taking this train across Japan, and I look, and there's it's like the middle of nowhere, and there's a 7-Eleven, and there's a kid like sitting out there on his BMX bike with like a small radio, and I'm like, there's a million of us, man. You know, it's not just Downingtown. There's some kid in Japan who's in a small town, and he wants to get out of there, you know? Right. So, yeah.
Now, did you did you leave like the Philly area and move up to New York?
Yeah, I moved from Downingtown to Northeast Philly, and you know, rock and roll was always in my blood. So literally the day after I graduated high school, I moved into, I don't know if you guys remember this place, Warrior. It's still there, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Bustleton Avenue. Yeah,
right.
I got an apartment above there, and got a job working at the store. And basically, at the time, a lot of strippers would come in and buy clothes. So we would hang out in the store all day, sell clothes to the strippers at night, and then we'd open up our apartment upstairs that night and charge people to come to the parties upstairs. So while we're working, we're promoting these parties, and we'd have all the strippers there, and it was awesome. It was cool.
Actually, I was a pro wrestler, and back in, it's probably around 91, one of the guys who I did a lot, who was like helped train me and all, he lived right by there, and we used to go there and buy our tights for wrestling.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because custom made them, you know. They're custom made there. Yeah.
That's funny. So
yeah, those were great times.
And back then, too, you had the band, which I didn't realize. I didn't put two and two together until probably about 10 years ago, but a band that I remember seeing flyers all around the area for, the Vampire Love Dolls.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is really funny because Christian, who played on my solo album that I'm about to put out, Christian was in that band, and
oh, wow.
He now plays in Stone Sour. It's
okay.
It's kind of weird. We have like these really weird like parallel lives. Like, you know, I played in the Murderdolls with Joey, and you know, got to play with Joan Jett, and you know, Christian played with Dee Dee Ramone, and now plays with Corey Taylor. So it's like we were both these guys from you know, Pennsylvania kids, and you know, played with these punk rock legends, and then oddly played with guys from Slipknot. You know,
right,
so
right.
How does that happen? You know?
Well, I mean, you had like hell of a resume. I mean, between playing with Dope and then the Murderdolls, and then Joan Jett, it's just like, wow, like the whole thing with Dope, like really, especially Dope and the Murderdolls, like, and I know it was probably like an influence with Rex being in both of those bands too, but they always reminded me, and even with you with Trash Like Vision, always reminded me of like modern day at the time Tease or Rough House.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah,
and
I mean,
part of,
I wasn't around Tease as much, but I think it was probably the same influences that they had for sure. I mean, Dave Weekley, that guy's just awesome, you know.
Yeah.
And he had this whole David Bowie death rock thing going on. I mean, really, it's Dave Weekley more than anybody, to be honest with you. I mean, he not to short sell anyone else, but you know, he was the guy who had like the cool moves and the black hair and the black lipstick. Yeah, Weekley was awesome, or is, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that band like changed my life. The first time I saw them guys was in '85 at 2nd and Chestnut on the back of a flatbed truck open for Keel.
Wow. Yeah. And
yeah,
for me, it was you know, that whole scene. Like I remember going and seeing Motley Crue at the Spectrum and being like, oh wow, that's insane. Like, that's awesome. And then going and seeing a show at the Empire. I'll never forget the first time going to the Empire, seeing a show and going like, wait, okay, so that's how you go from, that's the stepping stone to the Spectrum. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously there are a lot of other steps in between that I was not aware of back then. But yeah, as a kid, those shows at the Empire and what was the place down on Chestnut? Revival, you know. Okay. All those places, yeah.
Wow. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Right?
So then you were in with Dope, and then you jumped over to the Murderdolls after Rex left. Was there ever like heat? I mean, I could swear there was like a lot of heat between like Wednesday and Edsel Dope because of like, I think Edsel was like trying to say like Murderdolls stole their image and their sound and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know, that was really like fleas fighting over who owns a dog, if you ask me. Right. You know, you have to remember, too, at the time, I mean, now that's all water under the bridge, but at that time, you know, you have to look at it from Etzel's standpoint, which was that at that time, Dope was losing their deal with Sony, and he didn't know what was going to happen, you know, and that was, like, kind of a scary time. It's like, you know, you end up getting a record deal, right? And that's like kind of beyond your wildest dreams. And you have all these people blowing smoke up your ass telling you that you're the next big thing, right? And then all of a sudden, like, you go into that second record and, like, those guys aren't returning your calls anymore. And I'm not saying that that's what happened to him. I can't speak for him. But things like that, you know? And then it's like, oh, shit. And you get a taste of it. You're touring with Kid Rock. You're touring with, you know, all these big bands. And then all of a sudden, it's like the people that facilitate those things aren't returning your calls, and it's scary, you know? So I think it was more of that. I mean, you know, like I said, it's water under the bridge now, but, you know, we all had our there's some friction between the two bands back then. You know, I didn't particularly get along Tripp at that time. So, you know.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. What, have you, like, heard or seen any hair of him since the whole trouble he got into?
No. There's an old saying, I don't regret the past, nor do I wish to relive it, you know, and he's doing whatever it is that he's doing, and God bless him, you know.
Right. Wow. Now, how about, then you went on to the Murderdolls, which, another great band, and you guys, I felt like, had a tremendous head of steam. You guys were kicked in ass, had a great following, and then, like, it just drifted away.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm most proud about with that band, you know, it's funny because with Dope, we had the whole machine behind us. We had major labels behind us. We had everything behind us, and it just kind of didn't take. With the Murderdolls, the machine was against us. Like, our record company flat out told us, we think this band is stupid. We're not getting behind it. Don't expect us to spend a penny promoting it. And we want Joey to go back in the studio as soon as possible and do the next Slipknot record. Well, fortunately for us, Roadrunner Records in Japan and also in England saw the potential in it. You know, they were like, nah, man, there's something cool here. And fortunately, Joey believed in it too. Like, the easiest thing Joey could have done was said, oh, gee, guys, I guess you're right. Let me go back and do a Slipknot record. And unfortunately, when you back a guy like that into a corner, his attitude becomes, can I curse on this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, his attitude becomes like, fuck you. Like, I'm going to delay that Slipknot record even more, you know? So one of the things that was so gratifying about that band was that there were a lot of hurdles in our way. And despite them, we overcame them, you know?
Right. But then I just don't understand, and it infuriates me, when Wednesday and Joey came back and did that second album, why you guys were not involved. It drove me insane. I think that was a big problem that really went against them as well, because I think a lot of people were hoping to see that lineup back together, because it was magic.
Yeah. Well, you know, the way I choose to look at it is that, you know, as a result of not doing that tour and not doing that album, I ended up playing with Joan. So it hurt my feelings at first, especially because I kind of felt like I was sort of the one that was trying to keep things together. I mean, I was the one that toured with Wednesday, and then I did that Roadrunner United record with Joey. And when those guys were butting heads, I was kind of like, no, it's cool, man, it's cool. I was kind of the one trying to keep the peace between them. And so yeah, it really hurt. But, you know, I ended up coming out on top, so worked out for me.
There you go.
And I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the thing about that band is that the people that liked that band loved, like, what it was doing for rock and roll. You know, we were a snotty rock band. We had so much attitude, and there's so much piss and vinegar. And then, you know, I think that by the time they made that record, nothing against those guys, there was no piss and vinegar in it, you know? It was more like just like a dark, angry record, you know? And it's not that it's not a good record. I'm not saying that. But what the main ingredient that people latched onto was dirty rock and roll and attitude, and that wasn't there. You know?
Yeah. It was totally different.
Yeah.
But then also too, we got to at least people in the Philly area and people overseas got to have Trash Lake Vision.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which was a great
an
band,
awesome band.
Yeah, fun
Thank
band, you. And I just didn't understand why you like pulled the plug on it. I mean, I figured that was like your baby.
I didn't pull the plug on it. That wouldn't be correct.
Okay.
But what I will say is that, again, it was one of those things where all four of us worked our butts off, man. And all four of us, you know, because of the four of us, we toured Europe several times. We went to Japan. We toured the States a few times. We got great reviews. And that was all a result of the hard work of all four of us, you know.
Right.
And I think it just reached a point where everybody was exhausted, you know.
Sure.
And because what had happened was we were about to go in and record our second record, and all the record companies that we were signed to, what we did was we licensed the record to 3 different labels, and all 3 of them were like, absolutely, we're totally doing it. We're totally doing it. And we're like, all right, cool. Well, we got the studio time booked. Like, we need the money. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to do it. And it was just really heartbreaking because after 2 or 3 years of all 4 of us giving up our lives and putting our hearts into it, a lot of the band just felt like, well, now's the time to kind of pull the plug on it, and it did leave me holding the ball, kind of,
Right.
But at that point, I'm like, well, all right, like, because that band was about all 4 guys. Like, all 4 guys were really important parts of it. And I'm like, well, okay, now all of a sudden I replace 3/4 of the band. It won't be the same,
Nah. Wow. And that's one thing I do remember, though, with that band was you guys were always touring. Like, I was tired thinking about all the touring you guys were doing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we were on the road all the time, man.
Yeah. Wow. So
we did it all on our own, man. We didn't have like any big record companies behind us or anything, It was all punk rock DIY.
Right. Now, here's a question for you too. Like you said, you guys did a lot of touring over in Europe and Japan, and they really loved the band over there. Just like the Murderdolls. What do you think your reasoning is? Like, stuff is so more just loved over in Europe than it is here in the States nowadays.
I think part of it is that in the States, people tend to be a bit more narrow-minded isn't quite the right word, but like over in Europe, it's okay to like Green Day and Cannibal Corpse,
Right.
And and for that reason, it kind of leaves a little bit more meat on the bone for everybody.
Right.
So it's kind of like, but here it's like, nope. If you like Cannibal Corpse, you like Death,
you can't.
And you like Septic Flesh, and there's a very small palette of bands that you like. And I never understood that. It's like, music sets the mood. So it's like certain times you want to listen to one thing, and the next minute you might want to listen to the next. And that doesn't mean that you're any different as a person,
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, that reminds me of like stuff in high school where it was like, when thrash came out, we would call people that liked Motley Crue a poser and all this stuff. And it's kind of like, 30 years later or whatever it is, 25 years later, and it's still like that here today in the States, it seems.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of funny, though, because that's one of the things that I loved about growing up in Downingtown was that there weren't enough kids to make like the metal click, and there weren't enough kids to make the punk click, and there weren't enough kids to make the goth click. So it was more like we were all like the art class kids,
Gotcha.
So to me it was always like, all right, well, if you got spikes on your jacket and you got dye your hair a funky color, then we're in the same club. And I was in for a big shock with that when I kind of moved to Philly, and it was like, well, are you a thrasher, or are you a poser, or are you this, or are you that? And it was like, dude, I don't know. I like anything that's got a middle finger and black spiky hair, whether it's Sid Vicious or Nikki Sixx,
So, all right. So after Trash Like Vision, you did some solo stuff, and then you formed the Dark Part. Which, that was a weird thing. Like you went off like on a weird stage of life or something there.
Well,
it was totally different than anything you did before.
It was, and what that started off as is at that time I was playing with Wednesday 13, and I didn't. There was never any commitment to it. It was like, hey, I need a guitar player for some touring stuff. Do you want to do it? But like I said, when you play, let's just call it guitar rock, whether it's heavy metal or punk rock or whatever. For me, I always had like stuff I'd listen to when I'm in the bunk trying to go to sleep. And a lot of times it was stuff like the Sisters of Mercy or Depeche Mode or Bauhaus or stuff like that. And even back, like I said, when I was in high school, I was just as into that stuff as I was other things, And there's a friend of mine who's a drum and bass producer, and he's like, hey, can you want to try working on some stuff together? So next thing we know, we have an album done, and I was like, well, let me do some shows with it. I never intended for that to even really be a project that I was going to get behind. But, all of a sudden you have like an album done. It's like, okay, well, I have an album done, and I liked it. I was really proud of it. Why not see if it'll take legs, Yes,
I saw you open for Ace Frehley in AC.
Uh-huh.
With the Dark Party. Yeah, and I was like,
and the cake
what happened?
guy. Yeah,
the
cake guy. Remember, he was on that show. He had like a jam band or something.
Oh yeah. That was a weird night. That was a really weird night.
It was so weird. Yeah.
But yeah,
it
I was like all
definitely weird.
I'm expecting some punk, some rock and stuff to come out, and I was like, wait a minute, what's this? This is not the Acey Slade we know.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, man, even Rob Halford had that too album,
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I liked it, and it's funny because when the second album that we were working on would have been way more experimental and way more guitarish. But I guess what it was is that, after, at that point, 10 years of playing guitar rock, I just kind of wanted to try something that appealed to other things that I liked.
Right.
And in hindsight, I guess I probably shouldn't have. I probably just should have put it out there, played a couple shows, and put it to bed. But you do something you like, and you want to get it out there.
This is true. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, and I was expecting you to say that too. Like, you made the album, you made it quick, and you liked it. Like, at that point, then you really want to get it out there.
Yeah. And that's all and you got to remember too, man. That's all I know is, for the most part, all what I do for a living is playing music. So now it's. I mean, I hate to sound so callous about it, but now all of a sudden I've got a new product.
Right.
And that product is always what facilitates my work. So, they changed the recipe of Classic Coke too, and that didn't work either.
Well, you just said this is what you do for your work, and earlier in the show when we were talking you up to come on, this is what I said, and this is going to lead into the next kind of phase of your career with Joan Jett, where you're playing with Joan Jett, and I was saying, here you are, you're basically you got a steady gig now. You're guaranteed a ton of work, and you turned around and, with a pretty ballsy move and, left to do your own thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those things where the bands that I played in before, like Dope and Murderdolls, even though I wasn't the main guy in those bands, we all kind of had our roles in the band. You know what I mean?
Right.
Wednesday and Joey wrote that whole Murderdolls record, but by the time I came on, I felt very responsible for a lot of how the band looked and the way that we did things on stage, and I felt like I was a part of something. You know what I mean?
Right. Uh-huh.
And I missed that. I really missed that a lot. And with Joan, Joan's, back to the Coke thing, Joan knows, not to change up the recipe for Classic Coke. So I just never felt like there was a place for me to fit in. I felt like I was always trying to find my place. And it just kind of felt like, all right, I never felt like I really fit quite in,
You know what? And with the expression I can hear in your voice, it's kind of like what I felt when I would see you guys performing on whatever it would be. I was like, he just doesn't look like he fits in. He doesn't have that feeling. He just kind of was like there.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, you know, I always was mentally present. You know what I mean? Like I
right.
was always suiting up and showing up. But there's just something to be said for feeling like you're being underutilized. You know, and so that's kind of like, you know, yeah, that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. Just not feeling
right.
like you're being utilized and not really feeling like you fit in, you know?
That had to be pretty wild, though. Like, did you ever have any moment, like, when you're on stage with Joan and just look over your shoulder and be like, that's Joan fucking Jett?
Oh, all the time, dude. All the time. I mean, it was like, you know, I never took that gig for granted. I never forgot how lucky I was and how awesome she was and how, you know, it's Joan fucking Jett. Just like you said, there's really nothing else to say. It's not like you need to explain anything. I mean, that's the thing that's so cool about that gig. You know, people could be like, oh, yeah, what, are you playing a band or something? I'm like, yeah. Oh, who do you play for? Joan Jett. Oh, sorry. You know, yeah, well, you know, that'll shut you up.
Yeah, right? Oh, that's
you know?
funny.
And there are a ton of experiences like that. I mean, we did a gig at Sturgis. We did the Sturgis thing, and I'm playing, and Steven Tyler and Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins, the guys from Leonard Skinner and Buck Cherry, they decided to seat them all in bass world. So, like, every time I'm doing a bass change, I'm like, oh, excuse me, Steven Tyler, I have to get my bass. Excuse me, Dave Grohl. It's like, oh, my God, what the hell is going on here? Why are those guys in my bass world? You know?
Oh, that's funny. You know, were you there at all when Dave Grohl hopped up on stage with her? Or?
Usually she went up with them.
She went up with them? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, all right, so that leads to you being the ballsy person you are and going back on your own to do a solo album, and you started a Pledge music campaign as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been awesome. It's really cool.
Now, I'm not going to say, like, the percentage yet, but before you went into this, were you scared at all to be like, what if nobody pledges?
No, I wasn't so much scared about that. The thing that was really the scariest was just that I was taking everything on, and you know, just the whole thing. Like I figured I could hit 100% because I kind of figured I could hit the 100% mark. It was more like, okay, well, once I hit this 100%, I've got to deliver the goods. That was the scarier part. Yeah. Right.
Which I think when I saw today, you're at 180% of your goal.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is kick ass. Yeah, I want it. My goal is to get to 200, and a big part of that is that, you know, you budget it, you do your budget, you set it up, and then, you know, I was paying for a lot of things out of pocket that weren't necessarily in the budget. You know, it's like I you know, even when I was playing in some big gigs, there were times where we weren't treated very well, and I was like, I went into this like, I'm never going to treat anybody that way. And so anytime someone walked into that studio, they didn't dig into their wallets at all, you know, because they're there to help me, and that's the least I can do. And but so I'd like to earn some of that back. You know what I mean? But, you know, and the other part of it too, though, is that, you know, not to boo-hoo, but, you know, the second I send out that first CD and the second that I send out the first downloads, it goes straight to the torrents, and then I might not ever make anything off of it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that stuff past 100% is really important. You know?
Absolutely. Which, I mean, and you had some really cool perks, too, which, I mean, you had perks where people can actually come into the studio and visit you, while you're doing it. You sold one of your basses that you used when you were touring with Joan Jett. You sold one of your guitars, which I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, part of that is that it's like, all right, well, do I want to finance this thing or not, you know? And I feel like who better to have these things than people who are helping me put out the next record, you know, out with the old and with the new. Give them something that means a lot to me, and then I get to make another record, you know?
But, you know, too, with the whole, like, Pledge Music campaign and how well you've done with it, it's got to, like, not only just you, but a lot of people in the music business especially, they got to, like, see that and realize that, hey, like, you know, there is people that still want this music out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's been the best part about it is, I mean, when I started the whole thing, it was only going to be an EP. And, you know, everybody kind of came around and was like, no, we want an album, which kind of blew my mind. Because I was going to originally it was like, well, I'm going to finance an EP and just put it out there and, you know, see what happens. But so many people wanted a full length, and so many people wanted hard copy CDs, and there's even a lot of people who wanted vinyl. And it's really cool because I feel like the people who support me, and I don't like using the word fan, but the people who support me are just like me. You know, like I like having full length albums. I like having artwork. I like having something more than just an MP3. You know. Absolutely.
Yeah. I miss those vinyl days, but they're slowly coming back, but it's outrageous the prices they're charging for vinyl now.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the reason why I ended up not doing vinyl is I didn't feel like, because I mean I wouldn't have been able to buy like 10,000 pieces, so I would have had to have sold them for a lot, and I didn't feel like that was fair. So
yeah. Now, any idea when this will be finished and out?
Well, that's the funny thing. You know, because it's all kind of on my schedule, I mean, it actually might be out in the next couple of weeks. Because, I took the hard drive, dropped the hard drive off today with the album, and it's getting mixed, should be done being mixed by Tuesday, and if it's done being mixed by Tuesday, I can send it off and have it duplicated, and, you know, in their offices by Wednesday, and I don't know, maybe it'll take them a week to make them, and there we go.
It was just very weird to hear you say that. I just dropped off the hard drive. I remember back when my band was recording stuff and all, it was like we dropped off the reel.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, really, I didn't even have to do that. We could have. He was like, oh, just you know, use Dropbox or whatever. And I was like, really?
Right.
Yeah. Really? That's kind of weird, you know?
That's crazy.
But, yeah. I mean, we did a lot of it analog. We went through an old analog Neve console before it went into Pro Tools. So that was kind of a whole thing with me is that, you know, this record is being made by people. It's being made by the people who pledged to this album. So there's something organic there. There's something with heart in it. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
And so, like, you know, it's like these are real guitars, man. These are real basses, and it's going into a real console, you know, that and lots of tube amps that are being mic'd up, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it happened naturally. It happened through people and recorded by people. So.
Now, do you have a solid lineup for a band yet? Or, I mean, any shows or touring behind this, or?
Well, I ended up using, you know, originally, like I said, it was going to be an EP, and I used Frank Fair for half of it, and then I used this guy, Chris DK, who plays in this band, Dead Star Assembly, and and they both nailed it. They were both awesome. But Chris's schedule is a little more flexible than Frank's because, you know, Frank, at the drop of a hat, you know, is off with Axl or Psychedelic Furs or any number of the bands that he is in demand for. So Chris would be my drummer. And then I've been trying to figure it out the rest because I played, with the exception of Chris's leads, I played everything else, and I'm like, well, am I going to play bass? Am I going to play guitar? Like, what am I going to? Am I looking for a bass player or a guitar player? I don't fucking know. You know.
Which would you prefer to play?
Dude, I wish I was talented enough to play bass and sing, but I just don't have it. I'm just not. You know. That's what I would love to do, but I just can't. I can. I'm a really good bass player, and I'm an all right singer. But I mean, I guess part of it too is that I'm a pretty good front man, and you can't put the bass down halfway through the set to kind of front the band. So
right.
Yeah, so I guess it's,
this is true.
You know, I guess I'm looking for a bass player and perhaps a guitar player, but I wish I could just play bass and sing. I love playing bass.
That's awesome. So, do you think this is going to be your career course for the long haul right now, just the Acey Slade band or whatever?
Well, I have a couple things I'm working on. I'm working with Rachel on some stuff. There's another thing which is going to be found out about here very soon that I can't talk about, which is going to be so much fun. But that's going to happen in November, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then, but that's kind of the idea. That's why I made it just Acey Slade, because I want people to be able to come and go and it not really affect what I have to do. You know what I mean? Like, if I have a tour come up and it's like, hey, man, who's around and wants to do it? Cool, you know. I was trying to get Matt from this band, The Biters, to play guitar, but now, and I think he was into it, but now they're busy, so.
I've heard tremendous things about them guys.
Yeah, they're cool, man. It's like Cheap Trick, T-Rex. It sounds so fresh. It's so funny that it sounds as fresh as it does, you know.
Oh. Yeah, I got to check them out.
I think my record sounds really fresh, too, actually.
Now, what's the album itself going to be called?
Valentine's for Sick Minds.
I like that.
Yeah. And if you like Trashlight Vision, it's very much like that, you know. Joan was kind of a big influence on this record in that I was kind of writing some stuff, and I just had scraps of ideas around. And one day we were at the airport, and I said to her, you know, we're talking about writing and stuff, and I said, yeah, I've got like two parts of a song, and then I kind of freeze up. I don't know what else to do. And she just goes, you got two parts? I said, yeah. She goes, well, then there's the song. I was like, oh yeah. You know, should I stay or should I go? 2 parts, you know. You don't need more than 2 parts to write a song. But the truth is that what would happen is as soon as I took that pressure off myself, that third part would pop up or that fourth part would pop up, and then it's like, oh shit.
Now, did she try to talk you out of leaving at all, or?
No, the word we use is sabbatical.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I feel like I always have good relationships with people, you know, in that, you know, like I still, you know, every once in a while I play with Dope, you know. If Wednesday wanted me to play with them, I'd do that, you know. It's so funny, like you're talking about the old Dope Murderdolls rivalry, and you get older and it's like there's no need for all that, you know. I'm so grateful to Joan that if, you know, should things work out, if she wanted to do something tomorrow, that's the way we left it, you know.
Right. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I was shocked to hear that. I mean, what was it, like a month ago or so? You were just playing with Dope again?
Mhm. Yeah, we went.
They've been really quiet.
Together.
Yeah, they've been really quiet.
Yeah. For now.
Very cool. For now. Yeah, he's got to get himself out there too. That's a great band.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well,
very cool.
He's probably got something in the works.
Good. It's about time. It's been a long freaking time.
Yeah.
All right. So where can everybody go to pledge so you can reach the 200% mark? Okay.
Pledge Music. Probably the easiest thing is if you go to Pledge Music and just search Acey Slade, or if you just go to aceyslademusic.com. That'll give you the direct link. You just go there and it takes you to the pledge page, and that's, you know, that's where it's all at. You can get all kinds of cool stuff. You get all the behind-the-scenes studio stuff. You can watch me being a moron in the studio, or talking about gear, or talking about coffee, or busting my engineer's balls, you know. I mean, I've said it before, like that's the rad thing about these pledge campaigns is that, you know, we had that time where there's the physical copy album and then it was gone, and now there's this cool new way to interact, you know.
Right. Yeah, there's the whole that whole world now. It's crazy. Now there's Periscope, which it's like they keep adding like these social media sites. It's like a full-time job to do all these things.
Dude, it's exhausting. It's really exhausting. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. There's good and bad to it, you know. I mean, I know some people that are pretty successful and in bigger bands, and they shun the whole social media thing.
Right.
I disagree with it. There's things I really like about it. There's things I don't. But either way, it's here, and you can't change it. So I don't see any point in shunning it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That was like, you know, when Jason Newsted announced he was taking himself off all social media, him and his band. I'm like, why are you shooting yourself in the foot? Like, I couldn't understand that.
Yeah. Somebody else did that too. Dave Draymond from Disturbed, I think, said he was doing that too. But I don't know. But then on the other hand, there's some people that just shouldn't be. Like there's one guy who I won't say his name, but there's this one guy who's in a band that's really successful in England, and he's like, I can't believe he's still popular in England because he loses fans by the handful with just the dumb things that he says, where it's like, dude, this isn't like you texting your friend. Like, this is going out to the world, you know?
Oh, that's interesting. Now I got to try to figure out who that is.
The other day he posted these racist jokes, and I'm like, dude, you can't do that. They were kind of funny, to be fair, but the thing is that no one knows that you're joking. Do you know what I mean? Like, you post you know, I mean, my wife's from Taiwan, and, you know, her and I'll say Asian jokes occasionally, and it's all tongue in cheek. You know, she'll bust my balls about being a white guy. So, but when people don't know that about you, they assume it's the worst case scenario. So, right.
Yeah, and people are very, very uptight anymore. It's like they're looking for stuff to be able to bitch at you.
Totally. Yeah, the whole PC thing is a little out of control.
It's ridiculous.
You know. And it's hard as being in someone's position like me, where it's like, okay, like when you and I were growing up and we were reading, you know, Circus Magazine, we didn't know Ted Nugent was as nuts as he is. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't know that, you know. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I whether you agree or disagree with him, the guy's pretty crazy. We didn't know that. I mean, we just assumed, you know, it was like, you know, that was his facade or whatever. But we didn't know the depth of it till now, you know.
Till now, yeah.
And it stinks because, like, now some people come on the radio and you're like, oh, this guy leaves a bad taste in my mouth, you know.
He's a person made for social media.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, it's too funny.
Or like Eddie Van Halen, like with his rant recently, you know.
I am so turned off by the Van Halens anymore.
Yeah.
They're playing in Camden tonight, as a matter of fact.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, thank you.
But the guy who did my record did a lot of work with Dave, and he's just got the most awesome David Lee Roth stories. So.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole weird scene going on.
Totally. Yeah.
All right, so I actually got your tune queued up here, and it's called One Fist in the Gold?
Yeah, One Foot in the Grave.
Nice.
That's basically been my career the past 15 years.
Very cool. And I also, because I wanted to hear it too, I made it a double shot and threw a little Trash Like Vision in there for everybody.
Oh, cool. What'd you play?
It's my Fuck You to You.
Cool.
Very cool. But, Acey, I want to thank you so much for all this. It's been fun talking to you.
Awesome.
And
will you as well?
Yeah. When you come down to Philly next time. Actually, I just saw you were down in Philly recently. I saw you with Mikey P.
Oh, you know what? I wasn't down there. He was up here.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, we saw there's this awesome band called Pansy up here who you got to check out. They're awesome. He was up here to support those guys. Yeah, Mikey is just like the king of supporting bands, and he came all the way up to support those guys, and they're awesome. They're really awesome.
Nice.
In fact, I'm going to try to, if I get a band together, bring those guys down and do some shows with them, you know?
That'd be very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Like dirty rock. Do you remember that band Dragpipe?
I remember the name, yes.
Kind of obscure, I know. Like just like down-tuned dirty rock and roll. I don't want to say like Black Label Society because it's not quite right. But I can't really explain it. It's just down-tuned dirty rock and roll. It's like really gnarly. I love them. They're really gritty.
I want to see if you remember my band that like terrorized Philly for a while.
Okay.
The Dead Gerber Babies.
I don't remember that, and I don't know how I don't because that's such an awesome name. I love that name.
That's
such a killer name.
After every time we played somewhere, we got like banned because our singer like went through a G.G. Allen phase and was very naked, very bloody, and a lot of fights were started.
That's awesome. The Dead Gerber Babies. How do you go through a G.G. phase? Like, Gigi died, so it's like, does that phase end with you dying? Like, dude,
you know what?
White feces all over your face, and then like walk out and get hit by a bus? Is that?
Here's a funny story for you. We were playing, what was it called? Upstairs at Nick's, above the old of Nick's Roast Beef. We were playing there one night, and he was throwing bottles through the bar. He busted up his forehead. He's bleeding like a pig everywhere. He's chasing people up and down the steps. And finally, we got thrown off and thrown out. But he hooks up with not one, but two girls, right?
Mm.
They take him back to their place, which just so happened to be somewhere in South Jersey. He spends the night with these two girls. So now it's the next morning, and he's got to come home back to Delco, back to Upper Darby. And he takes the train back home, and he, over the bridge and all through friggin' the L through going through the 69th Street Terminal. He's sitting in the chair, and he sees his reflection in the mirror. He never cleaned the blood off. He had the dried blood all over him. And it was like the scene in Seinfeld when, like, everybody backs away from the naked guy. He said he was wondering why people were looking at him and not, like, coming near him. He was a dried-up, bloody mess.
He was a bloody stool.
He was there you go. Give head or die.
That's right. What was their other song? Choke the Load.
Choke the Load. Was that it?
Yes.
Look at that. Flashback in time. The old metal.
And I think they had a Christmas song too, but
my brain can't remember that one. Very cool. Before I let you go down, before I play your music, I just always doors always open. I just need you. Can you cut an ID for me? This is Acey Slade,
of course.
And you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Sure. Do you want me to do that now, or do you want?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. This is Acey Slade, and you are listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks,
we'll be talking soon, and good luck with everything, and hope to see you down in Philly soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Sure. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, there he goes, the one and only Acey Slade, and here he goes, rocking with you in a double shot. New song off his upcoming album, which you can go to aceyslademusic.com. You can find his Pledge Music site, and you can pledge. Get him up to 200%, and then, he'll be kicking your ass with some killer rock and roll. And here's the single, which will be coming off the album. It's called One Fist in the Gold. Here it is.